Did early church fathers know about these alternate gospels, and what did they say about them?
And in fact, some of those church fathers who did expose some of these Nag Hammadi texts actually said the church should not read these texts or ban them for other reasons, or rejected them just because they were written after the apostles.
They had a theology that was problematic not just for what it taught about Jesus. It had a theology that was problematic for what it taught about God. Christianity emerged out of Judaism, out of a respect for Judaism. In fact, the early apostles went to the synagogue and basically said, this is the completion of the promise that God has offered to His people from the beginning, going back to Abraham. They accepted the core theology of the Hebrew Scriptures of the Old Testament. One of those core ideas is that God was the creator and the creation was originally good. In this Apocryphon of John and in Gnostic Gospels that tell the story of the creation, God doesn't create. Underling gods do, and they botched the job from the beginning. So not only did God not create, but the creation wasn't very good at the beginning, it was bad from the very beginning. And this dualism, this idea that the material world is inferior in comparison to the spiritual world, is a form of Neoplatonism. That's not Judaism. That's not the Judaism that fed into the early Christian movement. There is no way that material could go back to the earliest generations of the Christian faith.
And if the church is accepting the Old Testament and then moving on with the claims of Jesus and who He is, His death and resurrection, and being the Savior of the world, they would have rejected that kind of theology quickly.
Exactly right. And so what you're getting is a hybrid theology that's trying to combine philosophy of the time with a certain expression of Christianity, a distorted form of Christianity, a twisted form of Christianity, and trying to make it palatable culturally. And it did become very popular. It was a real threat in the 2nd century. There is a lot of historical value in this material for us in the history of the early church, in the generations after the earliest generations. But it doesn't impact our understanding of Jesus or the quality of the New Testament in the way these scholars are arguing.